Hey, good morning, Facebook fam. It's your girl, Neo Soul recording artist Lahla-Hadiya, back again for another segment of Morning Tea with Mommy. How you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I want my mom to actually see all those people put their thumbs up and their hearts and their happy faces. So I'm going to go ahead and get her on the line. Hey, you.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. How's everybody?
So
I'm
now y'all can
fine.
do it. All my faithfuls.
Everybody. Oh,
Put
wow.
your
It's so
thumbs
good to
up, your
see you
hearts, and your
guys.
happy faces.
So good to see you and all the happy faces. That means everybody had a good night's sleep. Everybody woke up bright-eyed and, well, bright-eyed. Okay.
If you woke up bushy tailed, we need to talk.
I left that part out.
So,
Yes. So it's a beautiful day. It really is a beautiful day in our neighborhood, in my neighborhood. And hoping that the same is true for you. So, what do we have here today? We're still talking about our kings.
yes, the topic is still the black man.
Yes.
Just a little recap. We started out talking about our seeds, our children, moved on to the queens of the house. Um, and the queens of the nation, period, the world. And now we are talking about our kings, more specifically, our black men. This is part two. Yesterday, we talked about the black man being the protector, priest, and provider. And today, we are focusing on the black man as a leader. Yesterday, as promised, there were a lot of different comments flowing towards the end. We never seem to have enough time to cover everything. And so I wanted to give time and attention to that today because this is interactive. I wanted to actually address um, a few of the comments that had come in yesterday that we didn't get a chance to speak on or respond to or start conversation about on yesterday. So one of them was yesterday we were talking about when you're in a situation where you found out that the person that you were with is not the person that was purpose for you, and so there is a split. However, what's left in the midst is children and how we should operate and how we operate in regards to that. And so someone posed the question, how do we create a culture of co-parenting? So I'm going to let y'all hear from the queen.
Mm, wow. Hmm. That's a good question with a loaded answer. Um, First off, a blended, any blended relationship, blend when even when you blend beverages, you blend mixtures for foods, you're putting things together. So no different with the relationship. In blending, in a blended relationship, that means things are working together. And as the Bible says, for the good of those who love the Lord, for those who honor your Creator. So we've been saying this a lot, that it's not even about you individually, just you. It's about you as it relates to those around us, those around you. And in a blended family, you know, um, uh, there used to be an old saying, mom and dad, you say, tongue and teeth fall out, but they stay in your mouth. You know how you bite your tongue and you bite your tongue, but it's still, it hurts. It hurts, but it's still there, right?
Yeah.
So in a relationship, there are going to be some hurts. There are going to be some times when situations don't agree with each other, and oftentimes they don't, because even Siamese twins are not exactly there. There's always something that is not consistent with the other. So in a relationship where there are situations where you do not agree, um, you still want to, ideally, particularly when they're children, you want to blend. You want to put your personal issues aside and working on behalf of the village, the children. the family. Okay. Um, I know, being transparent in my previous Israel experiences where I had situation as an abused woman, certainly I had some issues with my mate, but I had to realize and come to the conclusion this isn't just about me, because my children didn't ask to be in this position. So I have anything I do, I have to do in the best interest of those of the children, and put aside my anger, put aside my hurt, my pain, and all of that. And that doesn't say, it didn't happen, act like it didn't happen, which oftentimes with abused women, and that's a topic in itself. We do that. We tend to do that. We tend to, you know, uh, okay, it'll get better. It'll get better. But again, we have to think in terms of what's in the best interest of our children. There were many times when I didn't want to even look at my mate, let alone communicate with them or speak with them, particularly when everything that it appeared everything that came from him was negative, whether it was a negative comment, whether it was a negative act, and certainly the abuse, the physical and mental abuse and emotional abuse. But at the same time, again, thinking about the tongue and teeth, you still have to work on what's in the best interest of your children, and work out some kind of situation where your children can still, or your child can still be in communication with or identify with their father. Okay. uh, Nobody said it would be easy, and it certainly is not, but it is workable. It is a situation that can be worked through, and I did to the point where later on up the road, where my mates said to me, and this is many years after separation, divorce, and all of that, said to me, you know, I don't know how you dealt with me or how you were able to deal with me, because I couldn't deal with myself. That was a profound statement. And that said a lot to me after the fact, but it was a good way to bring closure to that relationship, that was divisive, that was combative. It was a good way. So, and just summing it up, in those relationships, blended relationships, A, we have to work in the best interest of the children. B, we have to make certain that we're not imposing our feelings on our children, whether it could be a look, you know, uh, say the dad or the other mate is speaking to the child or saying something, or the child may tell you something that the dad said, and yeah, sure, you're right. We have to be very careful of that. Those signals that we give. You know, it's not about us. It's not about you, the individual. It's about you, the group.
And
And there's some more that goes with that. But yeah,
we did have one of our faithful viewers who was saying that, to that same regard, like communication and respect is key.
it's so.
And they were actually mentioning how in their situation they are a blended family, and they actually took it upon themselves to reach out to their husband's mother of their children, and they see them as like that's the mother of their children, because they do in fact care for that child or whatever. And so they took it upon themselves to reach out and start a communication line, not waiting to see whether their husband was going to do it, or the mom was going to do it. They reached out and did it. And so they insert prayer often, because it's necessary, for them to all be working together, because they all are needed in this whole process of rearing and raising a child. And so I wanted to insert this ideal because, I often hear, and we actually had a viewer make mention that, what I don't deal with my children's father anymore. But I have them, deal with him and his family. And so, and that's not uncommon. It's so many people who they haven't necessarily stayed in the whole disgruntled, I don't like you, you don't like me, type of thing. But it's like, well, I'm just not going to deal with you. I'll make sure that they reach out, make sure they know their other side of their family. But you and I, no need for us to communicate. And it concerns me on several levels, but because on one in particular is because without taking out intimacy, and any romanticism or whatever, when two people are engaged with each other for the sake of raising a child, I don't think that anything should change, in the regard of making sure that that person is okay. For a man, we're talking about the man and being the leader, making sure that the mother of your child is okay. Like, I think that, and I believe that, a part of raising the children, from your standpoint as a man, and just being an example of what a man looks like, how can you do that without showing that type of concern and respect for that child's mother? And even in a blended family, connecting yourself with a woman, if you so choose to move on to another space and have another relationship, connecting yourself to a woman, and ensuring that she understands, this isn't about an intimacy thing, or me still being attached to their mom in for this, in the regard of a romantic thing. However, this is the mother of my children or my child. And so, especially if the children stay with that mother full time, it should be a concern that that mother is okay. It shouldn't just be, well, hey, wait till the exchange. Hey, how you doing? That's good. What's happening? That holler at me, call me when it's almost time to pick them up. Like, it shouldn't be just that, because you're still providing leadership, and you're in a leadership role, and your children are watching, and so your son is still looking to you to see what it looks like to be a man. Your daughter is still looking to you to see what it looks like for a man to be a man. And so all of those things matter. They all make sense, and they all still play a part. And so I just want to get your thoughts, and you, mom, like, your thoughts on staying with the same the same energy that you would have if you were still in that relationship, but taking the intimacy part out. Obviously, you guys aren't together anymore, but the concern for this person that bore your child.
And it's funny because that's again, it's not, nobody said it would be easy. It's not certainly easy to take yourself out of a situation of pain, of previous pain, of misery, and all kinds of hurtful things that have occurred. But we have to do that. Keep in mind, the children were not the cause, were not, they didn't ask for this. So at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, it has to be about what's in the best interest of our children. It's challenging, but it can work. It can work. Um, I know there were many times when I myself, was so miserable and so much in pain, and you know how we feel with pain. We want, misery loves company. We want to get it out. Would this happen to me? And he did this and he did that and so forth and so on. Yes, it's very painful. However, at the same time, as much as we can guard our children, we have to keep in mind why we're here in the first place. We're here to satisfy God's purpose for us. He created each of us for a purpose, a specific reason, and everything we do should lead in that direction. Therefore, now that we've introduced children into the circle, we have to make certain that they are protected. And such as you do to the least of these, you do also unto me. So, in other words, this is Christ's word. So, if we mistreat, and yes, we are mistreating our children, the fact that we've brought them in this world, we've allowed them to come in this world by whatever means, and now what are we going to do to take care of them, to make certain that they are cared for? um, there's some good in everybody. I don't care, the most evil person, even Donald Trump. Somewhere deep down inside, there's something good in that human being. The point is, we have to put ourselves aside and think of those children, think of how what the father who contributed to the birth of these kids, what they have to offer their children. Don't try, as we often do as women, to be the determiner. We determine how and what that man does. Most times people come in relationships, they're broken anyway. We think we all have it together, but most times we're broken. And if this man, obviously, whatever caused you guys to drift apart, it wasn't just him, it wasn't just you, it was obviously something in the mix between the two of you that wasn't working. So let's get away from our little shenanigan or whatever. Let's deal with what's in the best. What can we do to make these children? And yes, it will require us communicating with that mate. You know, no, it does not require us climbing in bed, having those conversations like, what was that, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where the grandparents were in the bed, No, it doesn't require that. It requires us communicating in some way and keeping the conversation focused on, it all comes back to, what can we do for these children? What can we do for this child that's going to encourage their growth, mature into well-rounded children? It means the discussions, and I said this on yesterday, we have to do less grown-up talk around our children. They're not privy to all of that just yet. Let's let them mature a little bit, you know, and that's the main thing, is keeping those lively discussions out of the ears of our children. They don't need to know all of, why, daddy did this, and we want to paint the sides and we want to make sure that the people around us know why we're not together,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And that's not necessary. Nobody has a right to know what's going on in your household, including your children, when it comes to adult conversations. So, um, and the important thing is making certain that your kids are safe. Yes, there are usually concerns, and that's another topic in itself. But for the most part, a parent, no matter how cruel they are, unless they're dealing with some other outside influences in their heads or whatever, yes, there are some situations. That's another topic or another day. But right now, as far as coming together to blend your family, to make certain that those kids see the best in each of us. And it's not your part to determine what's the best in him. It's your part to determine what's the best in you for your kids to see. No, it's not easy, but it can happen. It can work.
And so, as a leader, as the man, of your household, how should um, a man deal with the relationship between his children's mom and his current wife or significant other? Because a lot of times I see where men will be in situations where they're with a woman who, you know, they love, that this is the person they're going to be with, this the one. Um, and either that mom does not contribute or that woman does not contribute actively to building a relationship with the child, no less the child's mom. Um, but then it's like this battle that the man is in to, you know, this is my household and she may have other children, and he's like, I don't want to disrupt my household comes first, but you know, that's my children's mom, and you know, I just keep them separate, you know. Which still, I believe, creates an imbalance in the child, because now they have siblings involved, you know. Whether like we like I have older brothers and sisters who weren't from my mom, and my dad does not believe, he never believed in steps, and so I don't call them my stepsister and my stepbrother. So but there are situations where now these sets of children have created this relationship and bond, and it's sort of like a strain, because either the moms aren't getting along, and the dad is, you know, this is what you created, like you know, you had these children with this woman, and so now you're in a relationship with this woman, and whether you guys have children together or she has children, um you're the leader. And at what point do you say, hey, hold fast, you know, these are my children? And just like your relationship with that mom is like, you know, this isn't about us. This is about what is best for our child so that they can be in the best possible position to succeed. And so, and knowing that that success is contingent upon us being in the right frame of mind to be able to pour into them effectively. So, at what point, or what is, you know, what is the best practice for those who are in these blended families, for a man who is, and this is more prevalent in the black culture, so for the black man as the leader of his family, and that encompasses all of that, you know, what is the best practice for integrating the moms and, you know, creating a respect boundary?
You know, that's an interesting segue and an excellent segue to our topic, the men as a leader. What is a leader? First thing, what is a leader? Um, you know, I learned, and I'll preface what I've researched in terms of what I already know and what I want to know, and those other factors. I had one of the best leaders in my educational teaching career. And I give kudos to Dr. Rita Robinson. And I've said this before in previous broadcasts that it was nothing to come into the building, check my mailbox, and there were all the posters just about every other day. Lavinia, I thought this was something you might be interested in. You know, in other words, a good leader has no qualms, no problem in empowering those who are working with her. Keyword, working with her, not working for her, not working, I'm your boss, you my servant, that sort of thing. But we had a relationship where, her staff would do just about anything to help the cause. And keyword, the cause. A good leader is influence, is an influencer, is a server. A good leader not only leads, but is able to follow. So when you're leading, you're displaying the qualities that you have that will be in the best interest of the group. In this blended family situation, you Of course, we know from previous studies that the man is the head of the household. So, such as Christ is the head of the church. Yeah, and Christ was no wimp. He was no wimp. So, the man as the leader displays those leadership qualities that are conducive to influencing positively his family. Um, he treats his wife with the respect that she is due. He treats his children with the respect that they are due. And it doesn't make him less of a man to listen to his family member, to his family. Okay, the Bible always also says, when you were a child, you did childish things, but when you became a man, you put away your childish things, and you did those things that men do, and that's not centered around sex. It's centered around being able to pull out the best in the people that you are leading. And in this case, we're leading our family, we're leading our wife, we're leading our children. We're and your leadership is so influential that your wife has no problem following you. Your children have no problem following you. But if you're saying one thing and doing another, that sends so many mixed messages. It really does. But there are several qualities, and they all begin with what? Love. Love. Everything that we do should be done out of love. The love that you have for Christ, the love you have for God, the love you have for your creator, whatever you call your creator. Okay? It centers around love. And then being modest, being, you know, not so pompous and big that you can't listen.
Yeah.
Listen. It's no accident that you have two ears and one mouth. Okay? Think about so you're coming off that pedestal, even though you're the leader, you come down off your throne and sit for a while with your family. And that in a blended family, that includes all of your family. There should be a time where all of the family can get together,
Yeah,
all
I
of the
believe that.
parties. That includes that other wife if the husband has remarried. And if you gotten into another relationship, before you even introduce the kids to that situation, there should be dialogue between you and this new person who uh, may be at some point considered a parent to your already family, your already children. There should be some kind of dialogue or communication with the wife. Yeah, with the wife. There should be, and it shouldn't be a thing where you set up a situation where there's like uh animosity, Yeah, well, when we're together, she ain't never do that. She ain't never cook. She ain't never do that. She ain't never get away from it. And it's not even about you. And that bring your putting those differences aside. So it's like another thing is being motivated to reach out to that person, that wife that you didn't get along with. That was y'all's issue. It
Right.
wasn't
Right.
his. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Keep it real now. Keep it real. Don't bring all that baggage,
Hmm.
you know, to the kids. Um, and be prepared and ready and willing to make this is your chance. If you're in another relationship, that means you have another chance to get it right.
Yeah.
Get it right. And in doing that, you are bringing out, you are displaying your integrity, your smarts, your value of life and of family. Okay. And then, and all of this, everything, and there's some other factors, but all of this, you don't have to do it alone. Follow God's will for you. Excuse me. Follow the will of God. follow God's purpose for you. There's so much more here. But, if we could just, like with what we're going through now in the pandemic season, how we're able to, and I'm certain there are days, yeah, when we feel kind of downtrodden and all of that. But then there are days when I see people putting these challenge games on. You're coming up with creative ways to make it work for you.
Mhm.
Do the same thing with your blended family,
Yeah.
you know?
And sort of kind of shifting off of that a little bit, because I don't want to make this all about that, um, in this whole subject of a leader. And so, one of our viewers made a comment in regards to, once you grow up, out of your childhood, it's like you, when you have children as a man, like you discipline your children harder, or I would see, your boys harder, because for fear of them ending up like you, or you wanting them to be better than you, and not taking that time to, um, even talk to them, and hear, their heart, and hear, what they may be going through, um, instead of just, laying down this discipline, because you're almost disciplining them as if they're you, um, and a lot of times they're not. um, I've seen it a lot, where I'll know, like, there's guys that I know, and I knew growing up, and now they have children, and I see just their interaction with their boys, um, and I'm sitting there like, um, but you were worse than that, and we see how you turned out. So, and a lot of times it's like, some of them grow into these adults that have chips on his shoulders, or the things that, you were going through growing up, like you literally grow into that as an adult. And so then now you have this child, and it's like, you're trying to, like, scream it out of them, or beat it out of them, or discipline them out of, it, and it's not the same. Like, when you lay it all out, it's really not the same. And even if it is, at what point do you see that that only creates for hurt people hurting people? You know what I'm saying? When do you, say, you know what? Let me communicate. Let me talk to my son. Let me talk to my daughter. Um, Instead of
Key.
just, like, laying out on the law, and like, you will not be like that, and like, like, where when do we get to that point when our mindset changes, fellas? And even, women in this, I know we're talking about men, but, as parents, period, like, when do we get to that point where our mindset changes, and we actually look at ourselves for what we are, um, and
And that's a good question. That's so important. Look at yourself. Let's deal with yourself. You know, and that's something as humans we have to get out of, and men and women. We're constantly wanting to, you always think about how many times in a relationship you always do this. What's always? That means it never stops. I've never done anything good. It's so, get out of the you always do. Use I messages. What am I doing? What can I do? And you brought up a very interesting point, La, how oftentimes men, and not just men, but women as well, they want to, whatever they've gone through as a child. I'm not gonna ever let my children have, my children ain't gonna ever do without da, 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 da. And instead of just doing what's in the best interest of the child, you know, 100, $200 sneakers does not make life better. Okay. Um, so, the thing is to actually have conversations, not once a year, but constant, ongoing conversations with our children, with our mates, with the other mates, as we're dealing with blended families. but certainly as the leader, you know what I really have always I admire I've always admired a family where there are men who take the reins, like in driving a buggy, take the reins and lead their family, such as Christ leads. And that doesn't say you have to be all hokey pokey, churchy, sacrilegious and all that. It means you are being a true leader, you know, and I believe and I know from the experiences that when we as women release to the point where we can trust, and trust is, yes, trust is you know you work towards trust, you know towards the faith thing, your mates believing in you by you showing in your everyday walk and your talk, making certain that your walk matches your talk,
Mm.
and it's by doing, it's by showing not only your wife or your mate but your kids, because your kids, I'm gonna tell you, your kids are watching every step you make. um it's okay. I admire those families, where the man has taken on the responsibility of the leadership role. It doesn't matter what profession, what job you're in. It has a lot to do with you being able to lead, taking that responsibility, and then your children being a fair disciplinarian, not provoking your children, not always joking so that your kids don't know when you're serious
Mhm.
and when you're not. We have to, men, you have to um, mature to that point where you are leading as if whether you were leading one or 1,000, and being firm but fair. That's the other quality of leadership that I so admire, being firm but fair. Everything does not require the whip. In fact, truth be told, the whip wouldn't even be necessary
Yeah.
if if things were on the up and up. And you know what? Another thing is, it's not even that physical whip that can tear people down. It's that this little thing, this flannel in your mouth, it's the words that come out. Because once those words come out, you can't take them back. Sorry won't get it. And I'm gonna tell you, it makes a difference when you tongue lash, whether it's your kids or your wife or your mate. It makes it really, it's like a red badge of courage, a red badge, a big A on your chest, wearing there was a book about that years ago. But the thing is, we have to watch what we say, watch how we say it, and be consistent, and not joke so much that your kids don't know. Is he joke? Because I've had my grandkids would say to you, and I do have a like a slide. Sometimes I'll say things, and they'll ask me, "Grandma, are you being sarcastic or are you serious?" And I have to qualify what I'm saying. I say, "Oh yeah, I'm serious. I'm really." But that's my way of lending a little softness to say what could be an explosive situation. And I've always said this to my daughter, as she was having children. I said, you never ever attack a situation when you are angry.
Right.
Give yourself time to cool down. And the same goes for a relationship with man and woman, you know. Because when you come at it, and some people, it's like they go from 0 to 100. So, allow yourself, just like that pot on the stove. You're not going to go and taste it when it's boiling hot. You're going to try to kind of let it cool down some, right? So, same thing with a relationship. Let it cool down a little bit.
And so you said something very key in regards to like anger and not attacking something, or not attacking it at all, but not dealing with something when you're angry. And so, we're talking about the black man as a leader. And I think we've gotten into a space and a culture rather where it's almost noble or manly, I guess, to if you're out in the street with your family and you get, if somebody does something and you jumping out the car and and you're like this barbarian,
Explode.
and so we've gotten in a culture, and just speaking to my black culture and my black family, we've gotten in this space where that's looked at as a man, like that's looked at as, yeah, my dad don't take no
Macho.
jump, and I've seen in several instances and different instances where that doesn't play out well, and not necessarily for that particular situation, but for the child, as the child is growing, and now you start to see those characteristics in your son. And so even down to he's playing with his sister or a friend or something, and somebody step on his foot and the first thing he want to do is like just explode, like you know he's like, what is it? What's the little green thing? I'm not into Marvel. What's the little green thing that that Incredible Hulk? That's what it is. Like they, you just become Incredible Hulk, and so you create this chain of violent behavior and put and label on it. I'm a protector. I'm a leader, and so and not to say and not to discount, when, because there's a time and place for everything. When there is a time to literally protect your family, and sometimes it has to be physical, but that whole fiasco leading up to, is what I'm talking about, and women do it too. But we talking about men right now. That exchange, that happens, like that has nothing to do with a resolve, is like this barbaric, like attitude and demeanor, and you know we have to, I feel like, as parents, period, and definitely as men, as leaders of your household, we have to move away from that. Otherwise we're going to get the same results that we see out here now. um, Only difference is they got guns in their hands, so now I'm upset, you piss me off, and I'm gonna shoot you. You know, um, Somebody posted something. I want to say it was in New York. It may not have been, but there were a group of people in a Chinese store in a little carryout, and there was a guy standing at the counter. I don't know if he was with the female or not, but there was one guy that was animated. He was talking and everything. And then out of the blue, I don't know if the guy said something that pissed him off. He pulled out his gun, shot him point blank, shot the other two dudes that was with him, and then proceeded to shoot the other guy that was leaving out the door. And like we're breeding these children that are born with like this anger, that have this attitude of like, I'm indestructible, and not just that, but not only am I indestructible, but if you make me angry, I have every right to choke you out. I have every right to bash your face in. I have every right to pull out my gun and blast you because I'm angry and you piss me off. you know and we see this, like, even down to, back in the day, like, guys thought it was cute to like punch their son, shut up, and they punching him in the chest,
Mhm.
2 and 3 years old, they punch him in the chest, man up, thinking, that is the proper way to raise a son, because you don't want your son to be soft. And so we see the results of that. And in fact, what you actually were doing, or what those men were actually, or those guys were actually doing, was raising a soft dude. Because now that same dude who was getting punched all his childhood, is now in a position where when you make him angry, he not even fighting you straight up. He going for a weapon because he won't be punked. So in fact, what you did was the very thing that you thought you were punching them away from, with every blow. You thought that you were creating, this boy that was going to grow into a man and wasn't going to take nothing, and was going to be strong, and he wasn't going to be no punk. But that was what was created. And so we're at a space now where, again, we're changing the narrative so that we can have different results. We do different things so we can have different results. And seeing that that doesn't work anymore, even our ladies, I know we talking about the men right now, but even our ladies, I talked about it in the segment with the women, where I'm in grocery stores, and the little baby not even able to talk, and they just can point that, and she just goes into this cursing spree, and you just calling this less than 2-year old everything but a child of God. And you wonder why your girls grow up to be women that's like, and this da, 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 and then they get into this talking battle, and they get connected with this same dude that was a boy that was punched out because he wasn't gonna be no punk. And so now he's face to face with this one, and he ain't gonna be no punk. And now what do you have? Domestic violence. And if there are children involved, now it's like a never ending cycle, because they see that this is their norm. And they have this misconception that that is the norm, and that's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen. I'm supposed to run my mouth because no dude's supposed to put their hand on me. And, all the while, the dude is like, yo, I ain't no punk. and and you have this combustion. And that's the culture that we're in right now. And so,
Yeah.
like, the question is, how do we move out of that? And as a leader, of not just your family, not just your household, but a culture, our black men, our men, your leaders, period. Not just of your family, not just of your household, but of a culture. You know, um, there has to be a point where you wake up, and those who are already woke, you work, and it's going to take work. It's going to take work. This is years and years and years and years and years of destruction, of mental, emotional destruction that has been embedded in our DNA now. And so it's going to take work. It's going to take work to start to change the mindset. And how do we do that? How do we do it?
And it begins with good leaders. Just think about it. We have the opportunity in a family situation, blended or otherwise, to create dynamic leaders, Um, I think in the Bible, I think, one of my favorites of all was David, because David came from humble beginnings. He was the least likely, but yet God chose him as a leader. And whatever God, chooses, he's the one who elevates you, you know, and that's something we have to, as families, have to find our center. What is your center? My center is Christ Jesus. And whatever your center is, you have to springboard from that. And if you can tell if your center is effective in the sense that, are you progressing or are you retrogressing? If it's not allowing you to progress in terms of what's in the best interest of the family, of your children spring up and they become, wise, they become respectful, they become all of the things that you would want them or that God would want them to be, then you know that it's working. Your center is working for you. But if it's not, then you fix it. And how you fix it, you go back to the drawing board and you find out, first off, what's causing the fracture, what's causing the weakness, what's causing the breakdown. And this is like with any relationship. Keep in mind that most times relationships start not by people actually getting to know one another, but people just looking at the outside and saying, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, I like that," based on what it looks like on the outside. But that inside can be right. Have you ever picked up a fruit? And I know I did a couple of days ago, and I'm like, "Oh, that apple looks so nice and shiny and good." And I bite into it, and it's soft and soft. It's just horrible, right? So it's the same thing with a relationship. You
Talking
look
about
at
the
it from
fruit
the
I dropped
outside.
off to you. You talking about that fruit? Okay, I got you. I got her some
That
bad
was
fruit, I
just
guess.
okay, and I'm glad you said that because it was just that one. The old saying, one out, one bad apple can spoil the bunch. But
Here I
my
am
thing
thinking
is,
I'm doing
I
something.
I take that bad apple out, and that's what we have to do in a relationship. You isolate, you pull it out, and you talk with it. You examine it, and if it's salvageable, then you do that. I have this thing. In fact, I'm still going to do it with all the apples that bless her heart, my daughter has dropped off to me. I'm going to make an apple pie. One of our viewers plug for Mersal. Mersal made her first apple pie, and it looks so scrumptious. She encouraged me because I'm going to take some of those apples that you dropped off and make an apple pie. That's my
You
goal.
know, that made me feel good.
But yes, we as what is the key? The key is to strong leadership, men, is being a good leader. Being a good leader by being a good follower, being a good listener, being empathetic to your village, to your family, um, and stop raising our children and start training them to be good leaders. A good leader empowers others. So you're empowering your children, you're empowering whether it's a blended family or not, you are empowering the people around you, pulling out the best that they have, pulling out the best that they have, and stop talking down and talking to each other, in a relationship. Good, bad, I'm always saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to love you anyhow. And guess what? It's nothing you can do about it.
That's it right
Amen.
there. Amen. Iman.
Amen.
What they would say? Why people they gotta be so
Because God is
creative?
good.
Iman. Just say amen. Um, it's 8:23. 8:23. You got some last words for us?
Hey, I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my words, and I'm sticking to it. God is good. God is good.
All the time. She on joke time, y'all. So I mean, going back to, and I've seen some of the comments. I know. Shout out to Gerald again. Gerald, man, what don't you write? He
Hey,
says
girl, thanks
he
for
wrote
I
an
got
article
yeah.
called
Thank,
"Reacting versus Responding: Understanding the Difference," which is crazy because he had sent it to me and my mom a couple of weeks ago. I think it was, or last week, and it's one of the things that I'm always saying. I'm very conscious about responding rather than reacting to a situation, which causes me sometimes not to do anything right away, because in responding, it takes thought, it takes careful thought, and sometimes you have to reevaluate the situation. In a reaction, it's sort of like my reflex, you know what I'm saying? Without a second thought or without a thought at all, I'm reacting to a situation verbally or physically. And so as I've matured, period, and grown as into a woman, and as I continue to mature and grow, um, I'm more focused on my response, which requires thought. And so I guess I would say to you, know the difference and understanding that in a response, if it's happening real fast, you probably didn't take the time to think anything through. So it's probably your reaction. Um, and it doesn't make you look like a punk, a sucker, or all the other words that people want to call a man when he doesn't strike back the way they think he should. Um, it actually requires more strength than that of a person who would be so quick to pick up a gun or a weapon or their hand and strike somebody. And so, in fact, there's the contrary. It makes you more of a man than that person. And so, what I would say to my fellas is, um, we need you. We need you to survive. so that the black family can survive.
Amen.
And we don't, it's not necessary for us. That whole machoism of, cracking the dude's skull in for my love, it doesn't require all that, because we need you to survive. To put yourself in a situation where you jeopardize your livelihood, you jeopardize the livelihood of me or our children,
Mm.
is not being manly. And is not desirable, because I want you here. And so being able to hey, let me get my family out of harm's way. Look, man, want no trouble. I don't know what's going on. I mean, understanding that when it comes down, that you gotta literally protect yourself and your family. That's one thing, but to engage in unnecessary uh, verbiage, for lack of a better phrase, for the sake of proving that you're a man, it's not necessary. And women, stop giving that misconception that that's what being a man is. By way of, I want a gangster. Everybody talk about why do good girls like bad dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want a gangster dude until he bashes you upside your head. You want that gangster who you see beating on everybody else until that day
A-
you come out your mouth wrong, and now
Amen.
you're getting flung through the wall. So be smart, intentional, and strategic, and wise in how you accept the men that come your way, and want your attention and want your time, because I tell you, at the end of the day, I've had one of my very good friends who was in a situation, and we were younger at the time, and being in high school, it was like, it was like, oh my gosh, you dating somebody who not in school, and being around them, like, I think back on just how I put my life in jeopardy, and I wouldn't even be here to even spread some of my thoughts and stuff like that. But years later, in that relationship with this person, finding out, he's always say, you're gonna see my name in lights, blah blah blah, and then we're in school, like, oh my god, like, he was right. And not knowing that she was dating Rayful Evans, and you gotta know that she wasn't the girlfriend. So it opened up a whole bunch of other stuff. And so, like, ladies, it's not cute, it's not sexy, to have a man that has that type of demeanor, because eventually, something's going to happen, and that same reaction that you enjoy being imposed on others is going to be imposed on you. And so we have to be very careful and very strategic and walk in our queenism. And if you stay in your queenism, then God will allow you to know when that person is the right person. So
Absolutely.
wrapping up.
Absolutely. And for the dads to know the same, just ask yourself, if dads would ask themselves, if what you're doing as a man is what you would want some man to do with your daughters, just ask yourself that question
Yeah.
before you even do those things that are questionable. Even the things if you've already done them. And that doesn't mean you're going to come back with your daughters and rule with the iron hand. I'm going to beat it out of it. No, 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 no. That doesn't do it. What does it is by example, living the life as an example for your boys, for your boys who will grow up to be men, and your girls who will grow up to identify with a mate. You want to lead that kind of example. Ask yourself, am I doing that? Stop acting out of guilt.
That's the hook right there. That's it. Lead by example. That's it. Um, you want better, do better. That's it. So We are wrapping up another segment of Morning Tea with Mommy with the black man, a leader. We're not done with our black men yet, so we're gonna be back on this topic tomorrow, diving in yet deeper than today. We're gonna read some of these comments and some that we weren't able to respond to, we may get to tomorrow. So I love you. Mama Lou loves you. And most importantly, God loves us all. So that's why it is necessary for us to get it. It's your girl, Neo Soul recording artist, wrapping up another segment of Morning Tea with Mommy. It's been real. See you bright and early tomorrow morning, 7:30. Until then, holla at your girl.